Vegas, baby fans. I'm back. Can't get rid of me that fast. Hey, first, we're going to talk about yesterday's song. Oh my God, that was bad. Funny, but bad. So, what I tried to do, a friend of mine, because I was saying to her, I said, she's my producer of my show now. And I was saying, my problem is I'm singing these songs and I know them by heart, but when I go to sing them without any music, I forget the lyrics. So she's like, why don't you play the music in your ear and then sing the song? And I'm like, oh, what a great idea. So yesterday I put People. I should have just done the instrumental because I couldn't sing and listen to Barbara at the same time because man, oh man, was that bad. So I'm never going to do that again, and I'll probably never sing a Barbara song again because I'm really bad. But it was fun. But so I'm back. So I just wanted to tell you that. I apologize because that was bad. But I also want to tell you I am a little annoyed with Ellen. She stole one of my bits. Oh my God, I've been doing this for years. All of a sudden, now Ellen's doing it on her show, and she thinks she created the bit. No. And people out there, anybody who's worked with me, mostly work people would know this because I said it more at work than anywhere, know this. You know how you got the he said, that's what he said, like, somebody said, "Oh man, I had this piece of meat last night. It was so damn hard. I couldn't even eat it." And I said, "Well, that's what he said last night." Boom, boom. And I would do that all the time with stuff. Just that if I could hear somebody talking at another desk and they saying something, and I'd go, "That's what he said last night." Boom, boom. And you know it because I say it all the time. I said it all the time. I was watching Ellen yesterday, and that little thief stole my bit. So now she's doing, you know, probably because she's gay, which I don't care. But now she's doing, that's what she said. I'm like, hey, that's my bit, bitch. She owes me royalties. Don't you guys think so? I'm just saying. But when I heard it yesterday, I was like, hey, just like I don't mention the president's name. I will never repeat his name. And from the beginning, I've been calling him 45. Then I would start to hear people on the news and TV say, yeah, I just refer him to as 45. I'm like, hey, that's my bit too. I need to get a little credit here. Anyway, so today we're going to do a little more Lynnisms because I don't know. I haven't been able to really think of much. It's hot here now. It's 100. It's going to be 100 and something today. It is here, the heat to stay. And tomorrow I'm going to put my pool up. So I'm sure we're going to have some shows from the pool. Won't that be fun? Because I found out, which I already knew this was going to be the case. See, when I lived up north, on the other side of the strip up north, there was a hotel, Aliante, which I talked about a lot. And I would go, I had a pool at my complex, but I didn't like it. And I didn't really care for the people. They were kind of rude. So I went to Aliante, and I used to go swimming there all the time. Well, I've got two casinos, literally 5 minutes apart, one this way, one that way. And I contacted them both, and they said, not this year. We can't let locals in because they're only allowed to let in 50% of what they normally could. So I get it. So I went and bought a blow up pool. Yep, I'm gonna be sitting my butt in a blow up pool. 62 years old, and that's what I'll be doing. I'll be cool. Well, wait a minute. I am cool. What do you mean? I'm cool. I'm Lynn. Cool. Coolly cool. My son said something a couple years ago about being cool, and I said, "Oh, I don't know if you're quite there yet, but I'll let you know when you get there because I know cool." I have this my grandnephew. Now he is 1 year old. He is cool. I've actually dubbed him Mr. Cool. Yep. So he's already cool, and he's only one. All right. So speaking of cool, so here's a funny story, Lynn's story. Many, many years ago, when I was working for this company that I worked for over 18 years, Beckman Instruments. Love that company. Best company ever. Um, I was really grateful that when Bill first got sick, I was working with them because I got to tell you what, all the time I missed and the insurance, they were just fantastic. I wanted to get to the 20 years, but I didn't. But anyways, so and they were in I don't know if that is. I think it's end of Arlington Heights. It's right at the end of Arlington Heights, the beginning of Buffalo Grove, where they were, and there was a bar not too far from there. So I had some friends that worked at other places in the area, and we would meet there and have happy hours sometimes. Well, one night we went there after work, and it was pretty crowded. And for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of it, but it don't matter. Um, Actually, it was a restaurant, and they had a big bar in it, and it was a steakhouse. Shucks. Oh well, who cares? Anyways, so we were in the bar, and they had how they have the tall round tables, and you usually stand at those. They didn't really have chairs, so it was because it was so crowded. So they just had a bunch of those, and that's where people would be congregating around the little table. And me and my friends were doing that. Well, you know me already. Well, you've watched enough of these shows to know I talk with my hands. If I sat on my hands, I don't think I'd be able to talk. Um, people say, "Are you Italian?" I get that all the time. I'm like, "Oh God, no, I'm Irish." So they're like, "Oh, because of the hands." I said, I know. These hands have gotten me in a few troubles, and this night they did. So we're sitting there, we're having a few cocktails after work, chilling out, and apparently I was telling a story, and this waitress walked by, and she was carrying her tray like that. The only good thing about this was all the glasses were empty, except for her tip jar. And I'm pretty sure that's what she was maddest about. So, anyways, I was talking. She walks by me, and phew, I flip her tray. The glasses go flying, the tips go flying all over the floor. Oh my God! Well, we started laughing. She did not laugh, and I was like, "Oh my God, what did I do?" And I felt so bad, and so I'm on the floor, and I was getting the tips, and she was like, "Oh my God, blah blah blah," and she's yelling at me, and my friends are like, "We better get out of here because she's gonna spike our drinks on the next round." And I said, "No, we're not gonna get another round because she ain't gonna wait on us." It was a mess. We did get everything picked up. Everybody helped. And you know what? She was okay. And I apologized, but oh my God. She's like, ma'am, you need to watch those hands. Those are lethal. And I said, I know they are. We were in, um, God, it's a long time ago. We were in San Francisco, and there was a bunch of my friends, and we went out to dinner with one of my friends' parents. Just happened to be in San Francisco, so they took us out to a really nice dinner, and we had already been cocktailing it up in their room. Well, then we went downstairs to have a nice dinner, and we're sitting at the table, and of course, the mother has a white sweater on. You know where this is going, right? And we're talking, and I was sitting next to her, and she had a glass of red wine. I think I did too, and that was my wine phase. Very weird, I know. And I was talking, and boom, I knocked the glass over. Goes on her sweater. She wasn't very happy. Um, that was Mrs. Smith, in case anybody knows, if they're wondering what it was. So there was a few of us, and yeah, I was really embarrassed. I was like, oh shit. But she took it cool. So hands, I got to be careful. But at work, they always used to say, if you sat on your hands, I bet you couldn't talk. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but I mean, I could show you, but it would be way too boring. So I'm not going to do that today. But I do talk with my hands a lot. So that one was a pretty funny one. Of course, I don't think the waitress thought it was funny. Here's another bar story. There was this bar behind Ranhurst, a big shopping mall that is, I don't even think it's there anymore. I don't know, but it was off of Euclid and Euclid 83 and Rand Road. And there was this bar behind Ranhurst called Stagger Lee's. So it was the day after Thanksgiving. Bill and this is when we were first married because we were living in our first apartment. So this is our first Thanksgiving together and married. So the day after Thanksgiving, we went over to Randhurst and we just kind of walked around. We weren't really going to shop. We just wanted to, day after Thanksgiving shopping, And I mean, it wasn't quite that crazy back then because we're talking. This was 1981, and so it was about 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we said, let's go to Staggerly's and have lunch, have a couple cocktails, and we'll go home. Okay. So we go over to Staggerly's, and we ate. We had some beers, and we were just having a great time and talking to people in there, talking a great time. All of a sudden, it was like 4 or 5 hours later, and it was getting close to evening, dinner time, and we're like, well, we're still here. So then we ordered a bunch of rounds of appetizers, and Bill wasn't drinking like me. And we were drinking and drinking and drinking. And then it was like, now it was the nighttime crowds in. And we'd been in there since lunch-ish time. And I mean, I didn't put them back as much as I did back then. So, but I was buzzed, but we weren't like, hammered or anything. But then some friends come in. Mary Kay and Ken come, and we're like, hey! And she's like, wow. And I said, oh, I've been here all day. And then we're drinking. Then we really went into party mode because we were partying with some friends, right? Well, then finally I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I get this. I was upstairs at this point. I don't know what I was doing, but anyways, I went upstairs, and all of a sudden I get a tap on my shoulder. I turn around, and it's the bouncer. He's like, "Ma'am, you've got to leave." And I'm like, "What? What did I do? I'm just sitting here having a beer." He goes, "Ma'am, you've been here since 1 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock. You need to leave. I'm sorry. We're going to have to ask you to leave." So they made us go. And I was behaving myself. How rude. This is Lynn. Mrs. Cool. So we had to leave. But you guys remember Staggerly's and Randhurst? Randhurst was a mall. It was one of the first enclosed malls back in the day. I was born in 1958, and my dad built a house that we grew up in on Euclid. And 2 years later, I think, or was it 1 year later? I think it was 1 year later, because it was just a 2-lane highway, Euclid, and it was a farm across the street. They sold the farm and they started building Randhurst. So then Randhurst became, it was kind of our playground too. You just walked across the street and here was this huge mall, with all these stores. It was awesome. And one of the coolest things about it back in the day was we saw more fireworks shows because they were right there. So every year of the anniversary of their opening, they had a fireworks show, and they shot them off literally right in front of our house. I mean, it was across the street, and they would be right there, and we would be laying on the ground. Sometimes my brothers would go on the roofs. It was great. But the best part about living by Randhurst, the day after Thanksgiving, Santa Claus would arrive, and he'd arrive by helicopter. And what they did, they landed because there was this big field. So there was Randhurst parking lot, big field, Euclid, our house. So it was right there. And the day, right around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, every day after Thanksgiving, Santa Claus would arrive by helicopter, and then he'd walk into the mall. And at that time, Mr. Ned from the Bozo Show. Remember Mr. Ned? Dun, the Grand Prize March. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, Mr. Ned. I think they call him Mr. Ned, but it was Ned. And he would arrive with Santa too. So, oh man, when we were little kids, we would just be peeled to the window of our house. And we'd be like, and then you could hear it. We're like, Santa's coming. And he would land and he'd get out of his helicopter and we were right there. It was pretty awesome, and there's here's a funny story about Randhurst, what my brother did. My brother, who lives in Hawaii now, Dale, I swear he's got the first nickel he's ever made because he has always been an entrepreneur. Like he's always been, you always knew he was going to make money from a little kid. So at Christmas time, they'd have Santa and, they'd be set up like they do at all the malls and you go and sit on the lap. Well, they sold red helium balloons for kids, for probably, I don't know, 50 cents quarter, probably $1. And So what my brother and his buddy did, this is actually pretty smart when they were kids. You know, kids would let them go, and what would happen? They'd go up to the ceiling, and they would stay there, right, until they eventually deflated and came down. So my brother went and got a big roll of string. He bought one. Him and his buddy each would buy a helium balloon. They would tie it to the string, and then they would just let it go up and up and up and up. And what he did was he'd wrap around the balloons in the ceiling, bring them down, and sell them for half the price that the people were selling at the mall. So instead of charging $1, somebody'd walk by, would you like a balloon for 50 cents? Sure. And he'd sell it. Yes, swear to God, he did it. He also used to look in the golf courses. He would go and pull out balls. Him and his buddy would go over to the golf course and dig out the balls in the lake. You know where everybody's balls usually end up, and then he would sell them to the golfers. He'd clean them up, go around and sell them to the golfers. He's probably selling the golfers their balls back. But he's living in Hawaii. He's got a great house, a boat. He's living the life. So I guess I can't laugh too much because I'm certainly not living any life, man. I'm living in a house I rent. I live paycheck, retirement check to retirement check. So there ain't no money here. He needs to share, is what he needs to do. But it was pretty funny, that was my brother. Another funny story of it's a Christmas story actually, kind of funny, kind of. There was this one Christmas we used to go back before the kids were born and stuff like that. I had a friend, her name was Pat. Unfortunately, she has passed away. Rest in peace. And her parents had this big house in Prospect Heights. I can talk about it now because it doesn't matter. Her dad was a bookie, very, very successful bookie, and we know me and Bill used to joke about this years later. We know we're on FBI tape somewhere because he was constantly being watched by the FBI. Because he wasn't a part of the mob. He was on his own and he was making money. And he was busted many times, and they'd come in and collect whatever they could and this and that. And we were like, because we were always over there. So we kind of started a tradition for a few years. About 4 years, I think it went on. I don't know. But at Christmas Eve, after we'd all be done with our families, generally you'd go home, right? Which is the smart thing to do because you always had family the next day for Christmas. Well, this Christmas Eve, we went over there. We had our celebration with the Haydens on their side of the family, and we went over to Pat's house, and they had a great party bar downstairs. Great. They had, pinball machines. They had a pool table. They had this fantastic bar. So we went and we all partied, a bunch of our friends. Well, this particular Christmas, it was 70 degrees out. Yes, in Illinois, the 24th, 25th of December, 70 degrees. Well, for some reason, that just put us in a party mood. And before you know it, at one point we were standing outside, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was 70 degrees. Like, this is weird. That we at this point we're like, we think the world is coming to an end, so let's party. I'm pretty sure that's why we were partying. I'm sure that was our excuse. And all of a sudden, we're partying. We're sitting outside, and the sun started coming up, and me and Bill look at each other, and we're like, we gotta go home because I still had to do my Christmas with my parents. And back then, because my mom was still alive, well, yeah, because none of the kids were born yet. We started at like 10 a.m. So this year, I got volunteered to pick my grandma up on the way. So I'm sitting at Bill. It was like 5:30, whenever the sun would come up. I'm like, we got to get out of here. So we went home and we slept for like 2 hours. Didn't even hear the alarm going off. I don't know how long it was going off. And then we jumped out of bed. We're like, oh my God, we got to go. And I'm sure I was pretty buzzed still. I think I was still drunk. And we had to go get my grandma. And she's like, oh, I was wondering where you two were. You're a little late. We weren't that late, but still. I get in, Granny. And then we were at my mom's house the whole day until 8 o'clock that night. And, we had 2 hours sleep. Oh, my God. So we just started drinking again. We figured, why not? It was the best way to do it. But, yeah, that was an interesting Christmas Eve. 70 degrees. So we thought, why not? I swear we thought the world was coming to an end, so we figured we might as well go out partying with a beer in our hands. Actually, here's another funny one from Pat's house. Another one before I was married to Bill. So this was probably the last Christmas before I married Bill. And I went over to her mom's, went over there, and then I came home and to my, because I was living at home. And I came in, and my mom was still up. She had done all the presents down. My mother, if you know me really well, you know my mother was, she started shopping in August for Christmas. We my parents didn't spoil us during the year with stuff, like they do now, where kids get bought stuff all the time. It was Christmas. I mean, it was there when Bill and I got married. I had to warn him. I'm like, it's overwhelming how many presents are on that tree. And he's like, okay. And I said, and every time they had somebody, more presents. So I came home and my mom's like, oh, how's everybody? And I said, good. And then we were buzzing, but I wasn't like hammered or anything like that. So but she hands me the camera. She goes, hey, could you take a picture for tomorrow? Go downstairs and take the picture of the tree before everybody gets here with all the presents, because it's all set and all the stockings were up. I'm like, sure. She hands me the camera and I'm looking at it, and all of a sudden I drop it. It goes blah 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 down the stairs. I'm like, whoops. I look at her. I'm like, she's like, have you been drinking? I'm like, no. And she's like, I think so. But thank God the camera did not break. It was just one of those. Um, Remember those with the square flash bulbs that went on? It was one of those. But it was pretty funny. That was another one. Camera, she hands it, boom, 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 boom. Thank God the stairs had carpeting. um, and then the last story for today, followed by a song to go with it. We were probably 18 years old. It was me and Pat and Peggy, our friend Tammy, probably Sharon Hellcrow was there, and I just don't know if there was anybody else. I'm going to say 5 or 6 of us. And Tammy, this girl who we knew, Pat had known, grew up with her. In the back of her house, she had this playhouse that she played in when she was a kid. They built for her. And it was made out of wood. It had a downstairs and an upstairs. Little stairs to go upstairs. You couldn't stand in the upstairs. You could only sit because it was a playhouse. But it wasn't very big, but we managed. So this one night we got some beers. Somebody bought them for us or something. I don't know how that happened, but it wasn't that. Of course, back then you were eight. It was eight. It was 19 to drink beer and wine. So it was easy to get people to go in and buy beer for you because it was 19. So a lot of people, it was easier. 21, it's harder. Plus, there's picture IDs now. Back then, there wasn't picture IDs. So either somebody bought us the beer or one of us had a fake ID. And so we're like, let's go hang out. So we had the radio going, and we were in this little playhouse. Her parents were in the house. We're in this little playhouse, 5 or 6 of us partying, and it was little. But we had a really good time. And then this song came on. And I remember singing it and everything, but apparently I put in quite a show. I didn't even know I knew the words by heart. But see, this was before XRT, before I started listening to XRT. And back then, the radio, because this was probably 77, probably 1977. Radio, they played the same songs over and over and over and over and over again, right? They didn't have great radio stations like they do now. Well, they don't have good radio stations here at all. That's why I listen to XRT still. But so you just don't realize the songs you know, but you end up, singing songs, and all of a sudden I just went to town on this song. So this song is this is for you, Peggy. Okay, you guys ready? Let's see if I can do better today, okay? Uh-oh. Something's wrong. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hang on, don't go anywhere. I'm having a problem. Technical difficulties. Tough difficulties. All right, we ready? Maybe it's my headset. Oh, man. This is just not working out for me today, is it? I'm sorry. Um, so, anyways, I'm trying to sing you this song, okay? And this is starting to get on my nerves, right? Okay, let's see. I don't know what's going on here. I am so sorry. All right, hang on.